The Sweet Sound of Success show is brought to you by the Mentor Studio. The Mentor Studio is an exclusive mentoring and training program for social influencers, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and startups, bringing personal development to the underserved around the world. And brought to you by Success Strategists. Simple strategies that work to develop your business with flow and ease using proven strategies and the right tactics. This is the Sweet Sound of Success with Sue Wilhite, Success Attraction Expert. Frank King, suicide prevention speaker, writer on Tonight Show for over 20 years, speaker and comedian for over 35 years, and a TEDx coach for more than 7 years. He's fought a lifetime battle with depression and chronic suicidality, turning that long, dark journey of the soul into 6 TEDx Talks and insights for associations, corporations, and now you. Welcome, Frank King.
Thank you very much. I'll try to live up to the introduction.
Well, I think you will. And live up, I think, is probably the key word here.
Yeah.
And you have got an incredible hero's journey, and I can't wait to hear about it. But for those in my audience who have no clue what the hero's journey is all about, never heard of Joseph Campbell or any of his work, Joseph Campbell was a mythologist, and he studied all of the myths and legends and stories from around the world in every culture, pretty much on every continent. And he put together a cycle of how these stories emerge and what the points are and the elements of these stories. And in his system, there are 16 different elements. We're not going to do 16.
Yeah,
That's a little overwhelming.
Welcome to the Hero's Journeys Marathon.
Right? And frankly, not every story has all 16, but
no.
And so for the entrepreneur story, what I like to do is focus on 5 parts of this, which is the ordinary beginning,
Okay.
the call to action.
You'll prompt me on these, won't you, Sue?
Oh yeah, I'll prompt
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna write them down. Ordinary beginning.
Yep. The big hairy monsters. Now, the big hairy monsters are sometimes woven together with the call to action, and sometimes they're before and sometimes they're after. The big hairy monsters show up where they show up. And then there are the things that I don't think any entrepreneur can do without or does do without. And those are allies, guides, mentors, coaches, cheerleaders, folks who helped along the way.
Mhm.
Even if it was just one of my previous guests, it was just somebody who happened to be sitting in the chair next to her and helped in that way. You know, nothing formal, just a helper. And then there are the folks that maybe aren't helping quite as much.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Joseph Campbell calls this the journey home, and it's an important element in the story, and especially in the entrepreneur's journey. This has to do with those folks who are maybe not entrepreneurs, the folks who don't understand what you're doing, don't get it about why you're doing it, and really question your sanity, let alone your ability to get anything done. And sometimes they're coming from a place of the heart. They want your best interest. They want you to be, safe and financially stable and emotionally stable. And they are discouraging, to say the least.
Yes.
And doubtful at best. So those are the 5 elements. And so let's begin, Frank.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's our time.
What was your ordinary beginning?
Well, I think my mother, when I was 4 years old and getting ready for a bath, I said to her, "Can I be a cop or a police officer?" I probably said police officer. And she said, "Honey, you can do anything you put your mind to." And I said, "Could I grow hair on my chest?" And she said, "Well, over time, I think you could probably achieve that." And then I flipped it on her. "Could you?" "Well, I suppose if I put my mind to it." And it actually became a tagline or of sorts for the family. Anytime my mother would, or any of us would, do something that was possible but improbable, we'd come through the back door at the end of the day and go, "I grew hair on my chest." That was part of our family lexicon.
Yes.
And so she instilled in me, and I didn't realize that not every parent instills in their child that you can do anything you put your mind to, how valuable that is.
Right.
Because couple decades later, my ex-wife, then my wife, a wonderful woman, just was not big on me becoming a comedian, said to me, "What makes you think you can be a comedian?" And I said, "Because my mama told me I could do anything I put my mind to." Now, my ex-wife didn't like that. And she said, "I am sorry she ever told you that." Yep. So.
Oh dear. I congratulations on her exness.
Yeah, man. Well, but she was a wonderful woman, and she did me a big favor. We were high school sweethearts, college sweethearts, and you have that long together. It's pretty much either break up or get married. And
right.
I got engaged in that fashion. She said, "Look, we're too old to keep dating." We were 22. She goes, "I'm not going to live with you," which would have been my choice, at least with an option to buy. And marry me or I'm out of here. That's how I got engaged, by ultimatum. And I knew going down the aisle, my intuition was screaming, "Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this." And I thought in my little pinhead, I'll try. You don't try marriage, you try grape nuts for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Anyway, after 4 years, 11 months, 19 days, we gotten separated, got back together, gotten separate. And I said to her, "Look, I'll just do open mic nights and I won't do comedy for a living." And she said, "You know what?" And this is one of the nicest things she ever did for me. She said, "You know what? You're lying to me and you're lying to you. You have wanted to be a comedian since the fourth grade when you told your first joke and the teacher was hysterical. And I'm going to do you a favor. I'm moving with my folks. They were up in Seattle. We happened to be in San Diego at the time, but our folks were I'm moving in. I'm going to give you some geography, some space. You go be a comedian." That was the first favor. The second favor was, "But I've seen your act. I don't think you have what it takes." That was more motivating than any sort of rah, you can do it, whatever. Because I that drove me for years. "I'll show you."
Right.
And somebody in San Diego, I do not know to this day who it was, every time I had my picture in the paper for some comedy contest I won, they would put it in a manila envelope, no return address, and send her the clippings. Well, bless their hearts. Yeah. So she did me a huge favor, to do, and it was important. That's sort of the origin story. And my entire family's funny. My mom's funny. My sister's funny. So that's my origin story. That's how comedy. Oh, and my first night as an open micer, 5 minutes through my routine, inside my head, I heard another voice, and it said simply, "You're home."
Oh.
And so I knew. And my second thought was, I'm going to do this for a living. I have absolutely no idea how.
Right.
Thought about doing a keynote called, "What could you do if you didn't know no better?" And I didn't know no better. I had no idea how hard it was to be a full-time stand-up comedian. But a year later, I said to my girlfriend, now my wife for 35 years, "I'm going on the road to be a stand-up comedian. Do you want to come along for the ride?" Thinking she'd go, "Oh, hell no." And she goes, "Yes." And we were on the road together without a home for 2,629 nights in a row, nonstop.
Wow.
Yep. Worked with Rosie and Ellen and Dennis Miller and Seinfeld and Adam Sandler, Kevin James, opened up for the Beach Boys, for Lou Rawls. It was a great 7 years and change. So that's the origin story.
Nice. So it's the origin story. It's the ordinary beginning and the call to action.
Yes.
Um,
Well, the call to action actually was rather dark. Married to my first wife, I was not happy, even though she's a wonderful woman. We didn't belong together. The joke I wrote was, we had nothing in common, but opposites attract. She was pregnant, I wasn't. So, which is not true, but it's a great joke. And I realized I was miserable being married to her, and I was selling insurance, which is a great business, but not for me. Miserable, and I was not doing what I believed I was born to do, which is comedy, going to open mic nights. And so, because depression and suicide run in my family, it's called generational depression and suicide. My grandmother died by suicide. My mother found her. My great aunt died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old. I screamed for days. And I've come close enough to killing myself. I can tell you what the barrel of my gun tastes like. So I was 24, 25 years old, miserably married, didn't like my job. And I thought, because of my mental health history, I realized if something didn't change and quick, I was going to kill myself sooner rather than later. And my second thought was, well, wait a minute. I could divorce my wife, quit my job, try comedy. If it works, great. If it doesn't, hell, I can still kill myself. So that was the call to action. And it really, it really had no choice.
Right.
I'm standing on the edge of a cliff looking down at a beautiful lake, maybe 10 stories. There's a wildfire burning coming right up behind me. And if I stay where I am, I'm done. So why not jump and hope to hit the water just right?
Right.
So I put it on. And here's the thing. There are few things in this world more powerful than someone with absolutely nothing to lose.
Yes.
So that was the call to action, was like, if you don't do this, you're going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Literally.
And I must tell you, as most mentally ill people will tell you, I thought it was just me. Nobody else ever had that thought process. Well, I've met a half a dozen entrepreneurs since then who had the exact same, I'm living a life, not mine, with somebody I don't belong with. I'm not pursuing my dream. I'm going to kill myself. Well, what the heck? I'll pitch it all and go for it. Like, always kill myself. So.
Right. Wow. Yes. And by the way, for those of you watching, if you've ever had those thoughts, don't do it.
Yeah, that's call the suicide prevention lifeline.
Call.
Yes.
And I won't do it now because this is Frank's interview, but I got to the edge once.
Oh.
And, called suicide prevention, and they literally saved my life. Not in the way that they were thinking they were going to, but they did save my life. So.
Oh, well, whatever, as long as it worked.
It worked. So the big hairy monsters sound like they were genetic somewhat.
Yes. So the call to action of the big hairy monsters sort of, overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dark passenger, apologies to Showtime series Dexter.
Yeah. Right.
His dark passenger wanted to kill other people. Mine just wanted to kill me.
Right.
So
right.
I had no choice. That's, it was, I'm sitting in the exit row on the airplane next to the window and can open it any time. It's a condition called chronic suicidal ideation. And it just means that suicide's always an option as a solution, problems large and small.
Right. It comes up at the top of the stack.
Yes.
It is for many people, it's, down toward the middle or the end as options. Yes.
Yeah, my car broke down a couple of years ago. I had 3 thoughts: get it fixed, buy a new one, or I could just kill myself. Now, the benefits too of that and telling that story on stage is every time I've spoken since 2014, there's been at least one person in the audience who has chronic suicidal ideation. They don't know it has a name. They think they're just some kind of freak and all alone. Had a young woman come up after my presentation. She goes, "You made me weep." That'll make you weep. She goes, "No story about your car?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "I've been having those thoughts all my life. I just thought I was some kind of freak and all alone. I heard you say that out loud and I wept."
Yeah.
That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
It makes a difference in people's lives. Absolutely. Who made the difference in your life, Frank?
Well, my mother, kicking it off with, "You can do anything you want to put your mind to." And she said enough. I firmly believe that. So when my ex-wife said, why do you think that's true? Because my mama told me. I hate she told you that. But that was her mindset. No, I guess nobody ever told her that. Well, and when I separated from my first wife and moved in with a friend of mine from North Carolina who was also living in San Diego at the time, and slept on his couch.
Mhm.
There's a great gulf between encouraging and discouraging. My wife wasn't particularly discouraging, but she didn't want to encourage it in any way.
Right.
So a week after I moved in with my friend, who was a big fan of mine and my comedy, and would stay up on the nights I went to do comedy to find out how it went and how this joke went. And one of my friends at open mic night said to me, "You got 50% funnier in the last week. How is that possible?" Well, because I was not only not being discouraged, or I was being encouraged all of a sudden.
Right.
And that he's my best friend from North Carolina, and that he was one who, stepped in and encouraged me. And I was trying to think if there's anybody else. If there's anybody else, well, I had wonderful teachers growing up. Being 65, back then there weren't a lot of professional choices for women after college: nursing, teaching. There were doctors and lawyers, but for the most part, so that in the teaching corps, they pretty much the cream of the crop. So I had some amazing teachers in my 1 through 12.
Mhm.
And when I went to work in the insurance business after college, we had a class up in Seattle at the home office, a guy named Ed Hall. And part of the class was he taught a motivational package, like they had bought and wanted all their new employees to go through. And he said one day, apropos of nothing, "Listen, the folks at the home office don't want me to tell you this, but just because you're here doesn't mean insurance is for you. You could do something else." And that was a revelation. Like, what? That sort of brought that comedy thing back up to the surface. And I'm thinking, I could be a comedian. It took me another, 4 years, 11 months, 19 days to do. But I'm a slow learner.
And you got to go through the experience of learning how to sell.
Oh Lord,
or not.
I had a conversation with a gentleman from NSA chapter, Dallas chapter today, and he's in insurance. And I told him about my 6 years straight out of college. And I said, I still to this day use the business skills I learned as an insurance salesperson. Thank you notes, business cards, asking for referrals. And that was the one thing I had on most of my competition in the open mic night comedy market was they're showing up in whatever was on the floor and wasn't smelling bad that day. I got coat, tie. I had business cards. They're writing their number on a napkin. I had thank you notes for the bigger talent that I worked with. Right. I think it's a business.
Yes, exactly. And in the insurance business, I know this because my dad was an insurance salesman. Rejection is part of the process.
Oh yeah. Well, that prepared me well.
Comedy, doing stand-up and doing insurance, it's like, oh, it's another no. Okay, fine. Next.
Yes, I was turned down 12 times by Letterman, Leno, and Conan to do comedy on their shows. Even though I was writing jokes for Leno they were making it into a monologue, I still got turned down a dozen times.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just a way of life.
Yes. And you just go on. You just do.
Oh yeah. It's, you just expect, and when you do get booked, it falls your way occasionally, then, it's all that much better.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about the discouraging words that came through. Could you talk a little bit about, you mentioned what your ex-wife had said, and some of which, you also mentioned that part of it was very motivating. It's the "I will show you"
attitude. Correct.
Right. Were there any other reactions or strategies that you used when people would reject you or would discourage you or just kind of think you were crazy?
Well, no, after that, I heard that little voice inside my head on my first open mic night. I realized I was home. This is what I was meant to do. So I just relaxed into it. When I left the insurance business, the guy's name was Bill. I was leaving the building to go. It was December. It was Christmas of '85. We left on the road the day after Christmas '85. So I quit on the 24th, Christmas Eve. And Bill said to me, You're not going to make it. You'll be back. That was 35 years ago. But yeah, I mean, and people mean well. They, comedy is a tenuous business. I mean, making a living doing comedy is, somebody goes, well, what were the odds? I didn't bother with the odds because they were so stacked against me.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the interesting part. There are no odds. There are no odds in comedy, in writing books, becoming an author, acting, speaking, performing. There are no odds in the creative process because you are unique. There are no odds because it's you. You are 1 in a million. You are 1 in 7.5 billion. Actually, those are the odds. Is you doing it? It's not how many other comedians are out there. It's not how many other authors are out there. How many other speakers are out there? They don't matter.
Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game. It's
right.
And in my speaking business, I did in 1995 when I left the comedy circuit, did a little radio, and then got into the corporate comedy circuit. Joined National Speaker Association, and they have a phrase: "The riches are in the niches."
Yes.
95. Well, I put that into practice in 2018. That's when I realized what I really should be speaking on, and I picked a lane. And then I picked ideal clients, and that's made. And somebody says to me, "Listen, we looked at your demo. You got anything else?" I go, "Look, you don't like that, you're not going to like me."
Right.
That's me. Or it is I, as my mother would say.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a great thing about picking a lane. Either you fit or you don't. Either you're what they're looking for, or you refer them to somebody who does whatever it is they're looking for.
Right. And if you're not a fit, great. Thank you so much for making it not a fit. Let's go.
Yeah, you can look at the next speaker. And I often have somebody to recommend, another speaker. It's Michael Port wrote a book called Book Yourself Solid.
Yes.
And he's got the velvet rope theory that your business should be like a bar high end with a velvet rope. You only let certain people pass the velvet rope. You don't turn the others away empty handed. You provide them with like a referral to somebody who does what they're looking for.
Right.
But eventually you just want to work with the people who, and when I'm coaching my speakers, I go, look, our goal long-term, it's long game, is to make you not a commodity on your topic in the speaking business. And the same thing for other entrepreneurs. I think you need to pick a lane, whether you're speaking or selling something retail or, and then you need to figure out who your ideal clients, who needs what you have to offer.
Right.
And focus on them and let the rest of it. But the problem, Sue, is somebody asked me, I was on a podcast with the guys at speakerflow.com, Austin and Taylor. And they said, why are speakers so resistant to picking a lane? I said, well, the one thing I remember from my economics classes at Carolina is something called opportunity cost. If you pick a lane, that means you are unpicking all the others. And I have to convince my clients short-term loss, long-term gain. You do not want to be, you want them come looking for you. It's going to take a while, but that's the end game, is that they don't want just anybody. They want the mental health comedian.
Right.
It's happened a couple of times. I mean, it's a long game.
Right. But ultimately it works out.
Yes. I think because you attract people who will help make that work out. You're networking with the people who will, help. I joined Ed Riggs. Do you know Ed Rigsby?
Yes.
Yes. He's got a website and a thing called Cigar Peg. And I joined. It's a networking group. And it's seasoned speakers, and they're all there to help each other out, and and of course laugh a lot and pick on each other. But I fell into that, and it's a good fit, and it's I think once you lock onto what your purpose is, and if you're passionate about it, then other things begin to fall into place.
Exactly.
Regardless of what kind of entrepreneur you are.
Right. Right. So speaking of not turning people away empty-handed.
Yes.
I understand that you have a gift for my audience.
No, actually, I decided not to. I was going to be.
Oh.
Sorry, it's a comic community. Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, it's propitious. Is that the right word? Propitious? Sounds right. That we're talking about this today because this class just went up live on speakerflow.com.
Awesome.
And if you go to speakerflow.com and you sign up for the class, you have to pay $247.
Oh, yeah.
However, the link I sent you to the Vimeo and the password, you get that for free.
Woohoo! Free is always good.
It's my entire TEDx coaching curriculum broken into 8 to 10 minute videos. It's everything I teach my coaching clients live. It's just on video, and so you won't get any live coaching, but
hey,
it'll take you from how do you find the applications to how do you fill them out so you get an audition, how do you audition, how do you construct the talk, then what do you do, how do you leverage it to get bigger fees or more gigs or sell your books or whatever it happens to be. So so $247 value.
Yeah, I think you're undervaluing it there, but yes.
Yes. Well, here's the thing, Sue. Speaking of sales, here's the deal.
I'm ready.
Austin said to me from Speakerflow, he said, look, Frank, you need to make this thing extremely detailed. I mean, extremely, like what's it, granular almost. Because, if somebody's going through it, I'm thinking, man, this is really granular. I need some help. I think maybe I'll contact Frank and buy that big fat live coaching package he has. So we made the barrier to entry very low.
Yes.
Because, like most speakers, we're looking for the second sale.
Yes, exactly. So you're modeling what you're teaching.
Yeah. So somebody who gets it from you free may end up contacting me. Frank, you are right. This is way too detailed. I need some help with it. Well, get out your checkbook because it's expensive.
Hey, it's okay.
Well, and the deal I offer on the expensive one, Sue, is I call it till death do us part. We work on getting you a TEDx until you get one or we both die trying.
Aww.
And if you have a second idea, it doesn't cost you any more. Third idea, if you want to make it into a keynote, no extra charge. You want help marketing it, not a problem. It's all included in a little package.
Nice.
So I'm your coach for life, basically.
Thank you.
Of course, one of my clients goes, Frank, you're suicidal. I need a side deal. Yeah, I want you to put something in writing. You won't kill yourself till I get one. Okay,
right.
Fine.
Right. Or that if you get to that point where you're getting to, pulling the trigger and taking the pill,
yeah.
You call me first.
Yeah, that's right.
You call me first before you do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and every now and then somebody will, I don't tell jokes when I speak on suicide, but I do tell funny personal stories. For example, another speaker called me the other day and he was late calling. And he goes, man, I didn't mean to leave you hanging. And I said, do you want to rephrase that?
Yeah.
He was like, oh my God. I said, oh, relax. I just couldn't let it go. It was just too easy.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Frank, for being a guest on my show. I really appreciate it. I know that you're busy. I know that your time is valuable and you do amazing, amazing work in the world. More people need to know what it is that you do. And if I can help in any way, I want to do that because this is important.
Thank you. Did we cover all 5 elements of the hero's journey?
We did. We're all good.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I should tell you, Sue, that I am a co-author on 4 books on men's mental health.
Nice.
2 women called me, and a psychologist and a therapist, and said, we're doing a book on men's mental health. Will you make it funny? And we're going to make it like an automobile owner's manual. Will you add the car metaphors? And I said, wait a minute. You 2 ladies are writing a book on men's mental health. Don't you think you might need, I don't know, a man? A man. So I said, look, make me a co-author and let me record the books for Audible. And so if you go to my website, The Mental Health Comedian, or as we say down south, The Mental Health Comedian, you can download the MP3 of the first book unabridged and I narrate it for free. Yeah, so an extra bonus.
Extra bonus. We got another.
Yes.
It's all good. Thank you.
And you know what else? You could include my TEDx coaching website. I think I sent that to you. Is yourtedxcoach.com.
Okay.
And if you go there, there's a free PDF called The the 6 things you can do to kill your chances of landing a TEDx talk.
Oh, nice. Oh,
because everybody tells you what to do.
Right.
But these are 6 mistakes that'll get you thrown in the no pile right away.
Right. Right.
So look, another bonus.
Hey, you're extraordinarily generous. Thank you, Frank.
I'm sure.
Bless your heart. And thank you to the audience of The Sweet Sound of Success. What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action coaching program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action coaching program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.